Let's be honest, you're not ready, and deep down, you know it. I say this not as a criticism, but as a statement of fact, like a shadow relentlessly following you. That gnawing feeling inside, an inexplicable void, a discomfort that doesn't subside even when everything seems fine. It's not baseless anxiety, but a persistent warning. This is the cosmos sharpening the blade before entrusting it to you. Have you ever wondered why, just before something grand triumphantly enters your life, the world around you begins to crumble? Friendships fray, your body aches with ailments, opportunities vanish like smoke, motivation evaporates without a trace. You might feel like you're sliding backward, but what's actually happening is a purification, shedding all that is superficial, all that you are not truly. This isn't punishment, but a rigorous test, necessary for the accomplishments to come. And here lies a secret that eludes many. The cosmos doesn't bestow gifts upon those who haven't undergone inner purification. It's not about Herculean efforts or blind luck. It's about transformation, that very metamorphosis that cannot be faked, because it's not enough to merely pray for what you desire. You must become the one worthy of holding it. Carl Jung perceived this with unsettling clarity. The unconscious cannot wait forever, and when it decides the hour of change has struck, it won't knock on your door. It ruthlessly throws you into the abyss of chaos. For chaos is the very language through which the soul remakes itself. A sudden breakup of a relationship that seemed eternal, the loss of a job when need pressed hardest, the sting of betrayal you never expected, never foresaw. These weren't cruel twists of fate. This was soul surgery. They uprooted what had outlived its purpose, what had rotted from within and poisoned you. But you branded it as unfair, felt deeply indignant. Do you know what truly stands between you and what you so desperately crave? It's not the world around you, not a corrupt system, not even the malicious schemes of others. It's that old version of yourself clinging with a death grip to the past. That part of you that yearns for change but fears letting go of the reins of control. The one that dreams of moving forward but is terrified of leaving its comfort zone. The one that strives for growth but is horrified by the very thought of the death of the old I. And yes, I didn't misspeak when I spoke of dying. For something new and beautiful to be born within you, the old, outdated must irrevocably disappear. First and foremost, I'm talking about your ego. That inner voice, once your protector, has now become a true prison, shackling your spirit. The ego craves not true change, but merely its appearance, a superficial polish. It dreams of results without the slightest risk, of all-encompassing safety and comfort, even at the cost of you remaining forever where there is no room for growth and development. That is why, when the time for decisive transformation comes, the ego desperately resists, fiercely fighting for its power, and that's when true suffering begins. But here lies the cruel irony. Suffering is not your enemy, rather it's a faithful ally. It's a signal pointing the way, a key to a new door. Pain is a sign that you are crossing an important boundary, and every boundary separating the old and the new demands a painful rupture. Did you naively believe you could cross it without paying your price? That eerie silence that has enveloped you lately, that oppressive emptiness within, it's not a sign of abandonment or loneliness at all. It's merely a brief respite, a pause between the devastating collapse of the old and the beginning of the construction of the new. It's fertile ground, richly fertilized with the ashes of a conflagration, ready to receive the seeds of future changes. In this fertile ground, tilled by change, every seed planted will sprout with unprecedented vigor, but only if you plant it consciously, with clear intention. This moment, this precarious threshold between your past self and your future, is the most sacred space in your life. It is here that your fate is decided. Will you merely be an echo of days past, or boldly begin to write an entirely new story? Look deep into your soul. What old, outdated patterns are still holding you back? What fears do you continue to carefully cultivate like precious flowers? What suffocating control can you not free yourself from? These questions, like an echo from the depths of the cosmos, resonate in your heart, preparing you for something grand. And if you don't answer them honestly, with an open heart, what you desire will remain merely a dream. Not because you are unworthy, but because you won't be able to hold on to this gift without breaking under its weight. Life doesn't shower us with what we passionately pray for. It gives us what we embody, what we manifest in every action and thought. And to embody something truly great means to bravely face everything that previously prevented you from becoming it. That's why trials are not punishment, but rigorous yet necessary spiritual training. Every betrayal, like a resounding blow, urged you to build a fortress of personal boundaries around yourself. Every failure, like stumbling on the path, offered a chance to rise, but wiser, more cautious. Every loss whispered of the transience of all external things, reminding you that true value lies in the treasure you create within yourself. And while you thought the cosmos had turned away, it, like a caring mother, watched over you intently. It observed how you chose your path, from the dark abyss of wounds or from the clear wellspring of awareness, from sticky fear or from crystal truth, from burning anger or from serene peace. This was the true test, for your essence is revealed not when the sun shines brightly, but when darkness gathers around you. It is in moments when the whole world seems to be against you that your true self comes to light. And if this essence is authentic, it will open doors for you that you never even dared to dream of. The cosmos doesn't bestow gifts upon the smartest, strongest, or most agreeable. It is generous to those who are true to themselves, to those who dare to live in alignment with their truth, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. Do you know why this happens? Because true transformation is born in silence. It doesn't need applause, likes, or anyone's approval. It matures in the darkness, in solitude, in self-renunciation. And when it reveals itself to the world, it no longer needs to convince anyone. It simply is, like the sunrise. Therefore, if you are now at a point where everything loses meaning, where life seems to be paused, and the road is strewn with obstacles, don't run, don't try to escape, don't misunderstand this. Look deeper, for perhaps you stand at the very epicenter of the changes you prayed for, but haven't yet proven yourself worthy of them. Here's the true challenge. How do you behave when the universe falls silent? How do you move forward when there are no signs? What do you choose when there's silence all around and no one is applauding? The world is full of those who crave change, but only a few are willing to change themselves. They dream of a new chapter, but don't want to turn the old page. They strive for something extraordinary, but cling to the familiar like a life raft. But it doesn't work that way. The true alchemy of transformation is born the moment you stop seeking in the external world what you can only create within yourself. When you realize that your inner peace is a treasure that eclipses any external accolades. When it dawns on you that the trials you're going through are not a personal curse, but a universal lesson. We all pass through this fiery forge of life. But how many, frightened by the heat, run away without waiting for the fire to temper them? Will you have the courage to stay, to allow your ego to crumble to dust, so that something true, deep, authentically yours can rise from the ashes? Believe me, if you endure, the cosmos will notice your resilience. And then you won't have to chase changes. They will find you as an inevitable consequence of your transformation. And here lies the main paradox. When you stop desperately desiring change, when it ceases to be an end in itself, that's precisely when it arrives. Because you have become someone who doesn't depend on the result, but enjoys the process itself. And this, my friend, is what the cosmos has been waiting for all this time with bated breath. You've realized this is not punishment, but preparation. Are you ready to accept this challenge? Since you've come this far, let's delve into something few dare to contemplate. The difference between a test and a revelation. Life can test you, pushing you through difficulties, but it's entirely different when those very trials expose what is hidden within you. When the cosmos shakes you, it doesn't change you from the outside. It merely reveals what you have always been, but haven't yet confronted face to face. This is where many go astray. They think they are being destroyed, when in reality, they are simply being revealed. And what comes to the surface can sometimes be unflattering. Insecurity, a craving for validation, emotional dependence, arrogance masked as self-confidence, fear disguised as prudence. All of this was already within you. It's just that now, under pressure, you can no longer hide it. And this is the essence. Pressure doesn't create your cracks. It merely reveals them, like a merciless X-ray. And once they surface, there's no turning back. You can no longer hide behind the illusion of well-being. Only two paths remain. Either face them directly, feel their sharp pain, or silence everything with the cliché. Everything happens for a reason, as if it's a comforting mantra devoid of true understanding. But here lies a paradox, as subtle as a razor's edge and as powerful as a thunderclap. What is happening to you is not given to test your strength, but to clarify your vision. You don't need to become stronger. You need to see more clearly, to see what automatic patterns you repeat day after day without questioning them, what outdated self-perceptions you've carefully held onto since childhood, what stories you tell yourself just to avoid admitting the bitter truth. You can no longer remain the same. And now the shadow emerges, that part of you you meticulously concealed to earn approval, what you suppressed within yourself to be loved, what you remained silent about to fit into others' molds. Jung wisely noted that enlightenment comes not through contemplating bright images, but through the painful realization of one's own darkness. And in this lies the whole essence of transformation. Trials are like merciless spotlights, illuminating those corners of the soul we've always been afraid to look into. Do you know why so many people tread water for years, even though life itself screams for change? It's simply that they prefer the familiar swamp of brokenness to the frightening unknown of healing. The ego clings to old wounds with a death grip, because at least in them everything is familiar and predictable. But true transformation is born not in the comfort zone, but where familiar ground ends. It is born in a daring leap into the abyss. And to leap, you must unclench your fingers and let go. Letting go is not a cowardly surrender. It is an act of faith, of profound trust. It is the courage to tell life, I am not in control of what is happening, but I believe there is a higher purpose in everything. And this faith is not a blind religious belief. It is an unwavering certainty born from experience. When you look back and realize with astonishment that every loss, every painful parting, every fall into the abyss of silence, all of it was necessary for you to become who you are now. Each such encounter was a meeting with yourself, with a part of you whose existence you didn't even suspect. True awakening isn't a flash of mystical light, not a divine revelation from the heavens. Sometimes it's salty streams of tears running down your cheeks on a Wednesday in broad daylight, right in your car. It's a sudden, deafening realization. You can no longer pretend. You can no longer live as if inside you is a scorched desert. It's painful, it's harsh, even cruel, but this is life itself. And only contact with reality can reforge you. Everything else is just a sweet spiritual illusion. And the cosmos is not here to flatter your ego. Its mission is to awaken you, to remind you again and again what you so desperately seek already lives within you. But it is buried under a thick layer of fear, inflated pride, a maniacal desire to control everything, and a sticky web of self-deception. Do you crave to embody a new reality? Excellent. But be aware, the price for that is your current version. You cannot take it with you into the future, not because it is bad, but because it is incomplete. It was forged in the crucible of survival, not on the foundation of truth. And this is the next turn in our conversation. To survive is not to live. The ego clings to life, surviving at any cost. The soul, however, lives. It breathes fully, it dances, it loves. And as long as you merely exist, flailing in attempts to avoid pain, please everyone, and keep everything under control. But should you make a choice based on your truth, without regard for guarantees or results, simply for the sake of preserving inner harmony, that's when true life begins, full of colors and sensations. Do you know what's most important when the universe itself tests your strength? Not to dig in your heels, not to clench your teeth in silent endurance, but to listen. For every trial is a message, not written in ink, but encrypted in the very pain you feel. What stirs your soul the most? That is what demands immediate reevaluation. What instills a chilling terror in you? That is what you need to face directly. Pain is not a curse, it's merely a signal. The problem is that you don't know how to decipher it. And as long as you see difficulties only as unfairness and not as valuable lessons, you will miss the invaluable gift they carry. Understand, you are not being punished. You are being taught. The cosmos calls you to tear off all masks and remember who you truly are. It doesn't crave your superficial strength. It needs your sincerity. It is from the depths of honesty that authentic power is born, a strength that doesn't need to shout about itself. It simply radiates from within. This is the essence of transformation, not to forcibly impose a new image upon yourself, but to give freedom to the one who has always lived within you, buried beneath layers of external conditioning. Will you have the courage to allow her to manifest? For only this determines whether you are ready to accept what you have so passionately prayed for. Remember, you are not the burden of trials, but how you choose to meet them. When your response is born from truth, not fear, the cosmos responds, for it has always been merely a reflection. And now, finally, you look in the mirror without pretense. Are you ready to go further? This is only the beginning of the journey. Let's talk about that uncomfortable thought that makes you shudder, the one that exposes self-deception, that quiet sabotage disguised as protection. What happens when it's not the cosmos placing obstacles in your way, but you, yourself? Paradoxically, we are plagued not by the fear of failure, but by the dread of success. Deep down, we tremble not before falling, but before dazzling brilliance. For to shine means to shoulder the burden of responsibility. When what we so passionately dreamed of comes true, there's nowhere left to hide behind familiar excuses. You'll have to step into the light without masks or tricks, and that's when the mind comes into play. An tireless factory of excuses, masterfully woven stories that convince us we're moving forward, when in reality, we're just running in circles. Do you recognize yourself? It's that familiar feeling of illusory busyness when we're doing things, planning, learning, but not getting a single step closer to our cherished goal. We fall into the trap of endless preparation, telling ourselves, I'm not ready yet. But you know what? You'll never feel ready waiting for the perfect moment to leap into the unknown. True preparation isn't completed before but during the flight. It activates at the moment of falling. Your mind is a reliable shield, true, but it is also shackles, for its goal is not your happiness, but your safety. Even if that safety is a cage called stability, and you whisper to yourself, the familiar evil is a comfort. Let's wait a bit longer. Risk isn't for me. And the cosmos, a silent witness, waits for you to release the rope that holds you captive. For until you decide to do so, no miracle will touch you with its wing. In this lies the cruel truth of transformation. Not intention, but action. That is what defines inner transformation. Not your desires, but what you are willing to let go of forever. And this brings us to a bitter truth that few want to accept. You cannot keep your worn-out facade and gain a new life. You cannot crave a different reality without wanting to change your role in this new world. Many crave changes in life while remaining the same. Isn't this sophisticated self-deception? Imagine you're striving for your destiny, but you're dragging a heavy suitcase filled with anchors from the past. Inside are stale thoughts, habitual automatic reactions, a maniacal need to always be right, a painful craving for drama, and an obsessive desire to understand every detail before trusting. And you know what happens when you drag this baggage into the future? You repeatedly reproduce the past, changing the scenery, the actors, finding new excuses, but invariably returning to the same worn-out pattern. Now let's talk about cycles. Not the ones we see on the calendar, but your personal ones. Those ominous loops that repeat with surgical precision in your life. You're seemingly trapped in a loop, constantly finding yourself in the same types of relationships, getting drawn into the same conflicts, repeatedly arriving at the same point of no return. Why? Because you haven't learned the lesson. Instead of lamenting the "why does this always happen to me?" ask yourself, why is this happening again? As long as your reaction remains unchanged, the cosmos will ask the same question again and again. Until you make a different choice, this closed loop will not break. For life obeys not the relentless march of time, but the depth of your awareness. And where there is no awareness, there is only endless repetition. But should you awaken even for a moment, enough to see that you can no longer be the same, there is no turning back. Awakening is irreversible, like the first ray of sun breaking through the darkness of night. It can burn like a flame. It can throw you into confusion, like a storm on the ocean. It can make you doubt everything that seemed unshakable, but you can no longer sink back into a deep sleep. You have seen too much. You have felt too much. This experience has changed you forever, and even if you try to return to your old habits, they will no longer bring the same satisfaction. You no longer fit within the confines of the past, because you are already a different person. You have outgrown them, and this is beautiful, but at the same time incredibly difficult. No one warns you that the price of awakening is constant discomfort, an insatiable thirst for truth, intolerance for anything that even slightly smacks of falsehood, especially if that falsehood comes from your own lips. Here a deeper thought arises, the grief for a lost identity. To find your true self, you must bid farewell to your former self. And I'm not just talking about bad habits. I'm talking about the carefully constructed image, that very persona you molded for years to survive, to earn love, to fit into society. You'll have to let it go, allow it to disappear. You'll have to admit that much of what you fought for with all your might was merely a defense mechanism, a way to avoid vulnerability. You'll have to see that the strength you display is merely a mask, concealing deep fear. Yes, it hurts. It's unbearable to look back and realize that years were lived captive to a false self-perception. But this pain is healing. For the more honestly you face your illusions, the more space is freed for your true essence. And it is there, in that pure, unadorned silence, that the universe begins to create. Not because you have achieved flawlessness, but because you have finally found your true self. Human, sincere, ready for inner growth, not for outward show. And when this happens, something amazing occurs. You stop obsessively chasing external attributes of success. You no longer need reassurance that everything will be all right, because you yourself know it, feel it with every cell. You become someone who doesn't need guarantees to move forward. You are the one who no longer tries to deceive your intuition, who doesn't postpone your truth, who realizes Even without seeing the entire road, you can trust the next step. And this, perhaps, is the most important change. To stop craving certainty and start living from the here and now, from acceptance, from conscious acceptance, not as a defeat, but as a manifestation of wisdom. For the one who truly accepts does not give up. He attunes, he adapts, he transforms, and then, only then, does the universe respond with crystalline clarity. Life doesn't heed your desires. It resonates with your frequency. When your inner frequency is attuned, when your energy is no longer torn between what you passionately desire and what you frantically fear, between words and actions, the world transforms. The universe, like a mirror, reflects your essence. Right now, you stand on the very edge, face to face with the most powerful and honest version of yourself. The question isn't whether you have the strength. The true question is, will you dare to shed the old skin to become who you are meant to be? Here, on the edge of the abyss, a storm rages in your soul, and there's only one choice. Leap into the unknown or continue to hide behind a mask of excuses, passing them off as logic. Believe me, the hardest part is not to change. The hardest part is to stop finding reasons not to do it. The most difficult thing is to admit that life changes not from intentions, but from decisions. And this moment isn't tomorrow, not when you become stronger, more confident, or less wounded. It is here, now, because the present, that's when you are truly free. But be vigilant. This isn't about a reckless impulse or fleeting enthusiasm. I'm talking about that second when your soul pauses and silently whispers, enough. Enough begging for approval, enough enduring familiar pain, enough dreaming of changing the world while avoiding meeting your own demons, enough burying your truth. This enough doesn't thunder. It's felt in your gut. And when it arrives, you'll recognize it unmistakably, because everything inside you falls into place, and you no longer need excuses. You simply move forward, and it is in this movement that what was once hidden from sight is revealed. Clarity comes after the choice, not before. So stop waiting for a signal. The signal is you. When you make the decision not to look back, when you respond to the cosmos not with a plea, but with action, because ultimately, the cosmos doesn't heed your words. It watches your actions, and here it is, the culmination. Unexpected yet so desired. What you dreamed of already exists. It is real. Look at that timeline where you dared to choose a different path, where you broke free from the captivity of old patterns, stopped waiting for someone's permission, and finally stopped betraying your true essence. This version of you, alive, pulsating, authentic, exists right now. Do you crave it? Then start acting, breathing, thinking, making decisions as that version of you would. For the secret is not about forcibly pulling the future closer, but about becoming the person who makes its arrival inevitable. So do it. Not out of the burden of circumstances, not out of fear, not to prove anything to anyone. Do it for that spark within you that knows you didn't come into this world for mere survival. You came here to burn with a bright inner flame until authenticity completely consumes you, to burn until nothing remains but your true self. For the part of you that doesn't need applause just to be, the part that is already awakened and eagerly awaits for you to finally rise. Stand up and shine. We are not here to flatter our egos. Our goal is to free ourselves from them. The next time the world around you begins to fall apart, don't try to escape. Stop, observe, take a breath, and carefully consider what's happening. Perhaps this isn't the end, but the very beginning of your true path. For while you're flailing in fear, the cosmos is already counting down.